revolutionary Jai Bhim to all. We are and I'm also incredibly happy to share this panel with Ajanta. Ajanta and I spoke together about 4 years ago when Rohit Vemula incident happened, and I think this is after that. So it's almost whenever there is certain calamity, our scholarly interest take us together, and I really hope this continues. And also recognizing her incredible work, please go and read that book, The Caste of Merit. Incredibly, rigorous research. And I think many of the IT people who live here, it's very revealing for you guys. Not only you, but many others. But I think do catch hold of that impressive text. In the American caste context, I think there are a few propositions that I will try to make in my short presentation. The first is the difference between India's caste system and America's Indian caste system. We really need to draw a line as we make a case, in this case, about America's caste system. And in that regard, I would just like to echo the arguments of my friend Bal Murli Natarajan in his excellent treatise, The Culturalization of Caste, where there are obvious obfuscations that one can use to subside or reject the argument if you reiterate the status of caste and caste debate of India into the American segment. The American Indian caste experiences have various tropes, the trope with the U. The performance of casteism or caste values do not see themselves necessarily as introducing casteism. They have very effectively normalized this by ethnicizing the caste validities that exist among Indians. And I think when we also talk about India, let us also usher the South Asian sisters and brothers who undergo similar form of oppression just because of their minority and oppressive status in these other countries. We cannot have them amongst us, but I think that's the kind of work we need to do. And within the ethnicization, there is a new framework that is presented, which then becomes a cultural normalization of caste. Within the cultural tropes, what happens is one can be culturally diverse, one can be culturally different, one can be culturally unique. We can use all this ethnic fetish to identify the caste groups, almost similar to what continues to happen within the African political economy. And due to this Brahminic colonization of this academic interests, what has happened is the shift to the American landscape has given more voice for a passive casteist to remain steadfast in his, her, or their practices of casteism. Within this broader dynamics, the definitions of hierarchy and definitions of difference. Now, difference could be social, political, or cultural, but the economic difference don't necessarily play a leveling role simply because, as Ajanta has pointed out, the work of Kapoor and others about the other 1% kind of easily fits into the American anti-affirmative action attitude of model minority. And by regaining the status of a certain middle class within a one generation or first generation American, the social differences act as a way to maintain a purity concept of India's caste system. Slowly, this India's caste system takes the form and shape of Hindu caste system. And when it takes the shape and form of Hindu caste system, it easily aligns to the politics of Hindutva ethno-nationalism. Because there is a step-by-step easy segue for one to then become a nationalist, fundamentalist in the political outlook, one can still be Indian and be a Trump supporter or a Modi supporter or any supporter of any attitudes, because that is made possible within the attitudes of social and cultural differences. However, when hierarchy operates, hierarchy is then taken as something that has been dismantled, something that needs to be addressed if it is not yet addressed. Constitutional provisions are provided to substantiate the argument that there is caste no more. Caste has been addressed in India's constitution, and because India's constitution is written by a Dalit himself, there is more of a claim to hang on to constitutional validity, to propose a model argument that does not necessarily offer a remedy to the caste victims. And again, when I say we should draw a line, we should also draw a line as to how then the Americanized cultural experiences of a white supremacist economy as well as polity, how do then that fit into creating a meta narrative of one to be a bhakt, one to be a follower of a certain sect or certain religion, to provide that litmus paper so that they can then thrive while being casteist. People will not acknowledge their casteism because it turns out to be more personal. However, they are willing to acknowledge the existence of caste-like similarities, which could be then, which then needed to be protected under the sacred order of certain religious dictum. Now, when we frame this argument and we play it by the rules of Hindu or Hindutva, what we do is we almost neutralize the personalized casteist role in this making. Instead, I propose we have to talk about the Brahminization of American Indian caste experiences. How a certain Brahminical class, and more importantly, Brahmins of that, continue to retain their status quo in the American Indian experiences by having more inroads into White House and the city councils whenever a celebration of Diwali, Holi, or any of these festivals come to fore. By making a Hindutva argument and proffering a logic which is based within the South Asian or rather Indian borders, one then remains confined to the anti-Brahminical discourse, non-anti-Brahminical discourse. And by providing a Brahminical argument, what we also do is we provide a status to American Indian caste experience. Because if we play with the Hindutva playbook, there is obvious rejection that this is not India. We don't do exactly the same thing in India. It's terrible. And you talk to any diaspora kid who is slightly embarrassed with India, will wash his or her hands by saying that happens in India, it doesn't happen here. But when we apply the logic and look through the Brahminical lens, very much to the logic of Phule, we come to realize that this is a personal practice. Many people who are casteist look at caste as someone else or someone other practicing. They do not personalize their action, their attitudes, and their participation in perpetuating casteism. And that's why by playing in a neutralizing logic of a political ideology of Hindutva, Brahmins or the dominant caste can easily stay away out of that and critique Hindutva by not calling out their own mothers and fathers and relatives within the same breath. And for that to happen, we need to stand accountable in the moment of Black Lives Matter, where white people of whatever hues and shades have at least proposed to stand verified or challenged. That unfortunately has not happened because the Brahmin fragility that exists, or when I say also Brahmin fragility, I also mean the dominant caste fragility across the various caste groups, do not allow for a self-criticism. Caste system has given one thing, and that has done very effectively, is for people to be insecure about their own self in this whole schema. So in the context of the Brahminic Indian American caste system, you should also know American caste system is as old as American pie. It has been, since the 19th century, post-slavery era, caste functions in this society. There have been enormous amounts of anthropological and sociological work that have really addressed this. In early 20th century, anthropology and sociology heavily debated Gunnar Myrdal, and the people, Gerald Berreman, Oliver Cox, of course, refused it. So there was having a debate, and Isabel Wilkerson right now reintroduced, and of course, her next book is going to delve more on that. And I think what we need to then do is how then it differentiates with American caste system that really segregated on the lines of race, and Indian American caste system, which is then going to be very much part of American fabric. Because if we make it an Indian thing, it's very easy for the defenders of caste system to make it again an Indian thing. It will never be a personal, individual, one's self thing. And for that, I think we need to start deploying new theoretical tools for us to then engage with these questions. Final two submissions to this presentation is within the desire of the American middle class a-casteness. And when I say a-casteness, I mean to say all caste kind of involved. There is a very huge aspiration to enter a semi-bourgeois world. And within this semi-bourgeois framings, even Dalit groups would like to submit to the categories of American dream, because that is how meritocratic promises then provided us. So how then we offer a critique of a bourgeois-centric nationalism that validates culturalization of Hindu religious or Muslim religious, Sikh religious practices that are premising on caste-based divisions, and yet find problems in that. The bourgeois world is happy for the Indian community or South Asian community to have its own problem without taking responsibility on its own shoulder. How then we also make the protectors and the titans of American capitalist dream responsible for giving more occasions for such kind of nasty system to exist, thrive, and of course now come to the fore of discriminating and creating more harassing strategies in this place. The final point is, when we make a question of caste, let us not also give an obsessive focus as much as it deserves to the so-called Hindu religion. We need to break it down what really Hindu means, because a person can be of a different caste and be a non-dominant caste and yet subscribe to certain values of Hindu, because again, you all know Hindu is a colonization of Brahmins. Brahmins colonized on the independent autonomous religious practices of Dalits, Adivasis, and many Shudras who never subscribed to the Brahminical values, but then they slapped that idea of Brahmin religion into modern form of Hindu religion and yet derive benefits out of the subaltern labor of this muted caste. Within this, we also have to look at how other religious practices who have been embracing the caste cancer, as my friend Kanak called it, how do we then hold those religious institutions accountable too for their either passive participation in perpetuating this caste, or looking at caste as an otherized concept where not having own personal. There are approximately 300 gurdwaras in America alone. What has been their role in addressing this caste issue? When such forms of discriminations come forth, how are their religious organization institutions and the finances that they raise are used to addressing the wretched form of inhumanity that the religion actually first of all chose to opt out of? We also have to pay attention to the Muslim mosques of Indian origin as to how they continue to participate in perpetuating this kinds of discrimination. A Muslim here will feel happy to clap at the efforts of Dalits because the Dalit is criticizing Hindu people, and because there is an investment of a Muslim to find that Dalits criticizing Hindu fits their bill, while at the same time when you point out their casteism, there is an immediate fragility kicking of the Savarna Muslims who converted into Muslim and continue to dominate the Muslim canon of India. And likewise, we also need to find out the major religious stakeholders. Many of the rationalist attitudes that exist within the Tamilian and other South Indian space of its own ethnic attitude of subnationalism. I also have to find out how they have subsumed the caste attitudes within their own groups, while at the same time propagating Periyárism at one hand, or any form of nationalism at the one hand, and then not allow for caste to take a precedence. And I think this kind of tokenization needs to be addressed for us to then make a solid case against how Brahminic Indian caste system has penetrated into the nuance of each American society, and how, if we are not addressing right on by legislating and making this action punishable under civil and criminal suits, this is going to continue to add more burden to the already burdened American social tensions. Thank you.